Secretary of State talked more about that in my exclusive interview.
The number 3 diplomat at the State Department, and indeed the man whose office we're sitting in right now, is meeting this weekend with high-ranking Iranian officials. Now, until now, the U.S. position was there would be no such meeting on nuclear issues until the Iranians stopped enriching uranium, which they're still doing. Why the change?
Well, let me be very clear that the U.S. demand for a precondition for the suspension of Iranian enrichment and reprocessing prior to negotiations stands. And in fact, what Bill Burns will do is he will go to demonstrate the unity of the P5+1, as we call it, Russia, China, and the 3 European countries. He will go to demonstrate that we're unified. He will go to affirm that the United States fully backs the package. By the way, I signed the letter transmitting that package. And he will receive the Iranian answer. He will also make very clear that there will be no negotiation in which the United States is involved until there's a suspension of their enrichment and reprocessing.
So is this just a one-shot deal? He
This
will just
is.
sit in this meeting, listen, deliver his little message, receive a response,
Well, of course,
and that will be it?
course, he will be listening intently to see if the Iranians demonstrate that they are ready to accept the condition, the demand. And by the way, it's not a U.S. demand. It is now a demand that is enshrined in 3 separate Security Council resolutions. And he will listen, and if Iran is ready to suspend, then the United States will be there. But it's very important to recognize that this is to reinforce a position that we have held since 2006.
But you acknowledge this is a change.
I acknowledge that what we've done is to make a step that we think demonstrates to everyone our seriousness about this process. But what has not changed is that the United States is determined to have negotiations only when Iran has suspended its enrichment and reprocessing. That's when the United States can join.
This is what you said back on June 3rd.
If Iran suspends its enrichment and reprocessing activities, I will join my UN Security Council colleagues. I'll meet with my Iranian counterpart. I'll do it anytime, anywhere, on any issue.
Now, could you envisage you're doing what the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs is now doing? In other words, listening in, receiving, not negotiating, but meeting.
We have one chance to receive the Iranian response. That's going to be on Saturday when Bill receives that response. I am prepared to go and talk to my counterpart any place, anytime, anywhere. But there really must be a suspension, verifiable suspension of their enrichment and reprocessing.
What about just participating in a meeting, listening in, along the lines of what the Undersecretary is doing?
I think everybody understands, and we've talked to our counterparts in the P5+1, that this is an opportunity for Iran. Very often we hear, Wolf, well, we're not sure that the United States is really behind this. Well, I signed the letter. Now Bill will go to receive the response. It's a bookend. I transmitted the proposal. He will receive the response. That should give the Iranians every indication of how strongly the United States supports.
So this is really designed as an incentive to them to do, from your perspective, the right thing.
That's right. That's right. And it is, by the way, a very clear message also that there is complete unity on both tracks, because, of course, we've submitted this proposal to the Iranians, but we've also designated Iranian banks and other entities. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Europeans designated Bank Melli, a major Iranian bank. Major companies are pulling out of Iran, like Total, which has pulled out of gas and oil deals there. And so the world is sending Iran a message on both tracks. First of all, there are consequences for continuing to defy the will of the international community. Continued economic isolation, continued isolation that is leading to an ever-worsening economic situation in Iran, and on the other hand, a pathway out. Suspend and negotiate.
Let's talk about Iraq right now. There's word as we speak right now of what Bush administration officials are now calling an agreement between the U.S. and the Iraqi government for a, quote, general time horizon for the withdrawal of U.S. forces from Iraq. Now that's an ambiguous phrase, but it sounds like something you've opposed for a long time, which would be a deadline or a timetable for withdrawal of U.S. troops.
I think you will find, Wolf, that in anything that we talk about with the Iraqis and anything that is agreed, that we and the Iraqis are going to want to be sensitive to the conditions. We certainly have views about how well the Iraqis are starting to do. They are taking over security responsibility in the provinces. The day is coming when American forces will step back more and more from combat roles. The day is coming when we will be doing more in the way of training and less in the way of fighting. Those goals are being achieved now as we speak. And so it's not at all unusual to start to think that there is a horizon out there in the not-too-distant future in which the roles and responsibilities of the U.S. forces are going to change dramatically, and those of the Iraqi forces are going to become dominant.
Is that a euphemism for a timeline for withdrawal of U.S. forces from Iraq?
I think that you will find that both the United States and Iraq want to be very attentive to what is actually going on the ground. And to the degree that you can turn over provinces to the Iraqis, because they are stronger, because their enemies are weaker, because political and economic activities are taking hold, of course you will want to do that. And there is no problem in having an aspirational, if you will, time horizon for doing that.